Double Primer is back-to-back conversations with someone passionate about their work and passionate about someone else's work. Mostly art and mostly Atlanta. I'm your host, Sean Mills.
Probably aware of like the artist Lady Gaga and how she was like a singer and she debuted in A Star Is Born.
Did she win as Best Actress, or did the movie win?
She
won
did.
As Best Actress.
Oh my gosh, I totally missed that she won an Oscar.
Yeah, well, okay, so here's the fun thing. So she won an Oscar, and during her acceptance speech, she made this kind of like FU to all the haters, and she basically said like there were like people in college who like made a Facebook group that said like you'll never make it. Stephanie Germata,
nice.
like her real name, and she was basically saying like, well, here I am, I made it, baby. And
right.
I thought like it's become like for society there was this kind of cheering her on, say like, yeah, like, you know, don't let the haters bother you. And I think what I want to like focus on is thinking about like how can we support people in a good way. So like Tanju, you're a parent, and I think if I could share this when they want to support people, this is how they should do it, which is be present and helpful. You don't necessarily have to tell them they're great. So like you don't have to necessarily say like you're going to be the next Lady Gaga. I think you should focus on taking them to recital or like showing up to their concert.
Sure. Definitely being present is really important. I'm still trying to figure out the other part. It's pretty tough.
Yeah.
I struggle with it. I think also I was thinking about this the other day along the lines of not letting somebody quit so easily, right?
Yeah.
When you get frustrated. I think even we talked about it last week with Brett, right? Where he was sort of reminiscing on he struggled with something and he'd quit because he didn't have anyone to turn to ask for help or get guidance. And it's so easy to quit. And there's definitely a place for quitting at the right time, but I think encouraging people to not give up something, especially creative or productive, is hugely important. And that can be a painful thing.
Absolutely. Actually. Welcome to episode 38, Double Primer. We have a special guest this week, Caroline Dunn. So, Tanju, what's trending in your world?
What's trending? All right. Turning back to Twitter again, as usual. One interesting that came up over the last week, I guess it was a few days ago now, was this a lot of news and kind of hype about MySpace having lost a decade's worth of music during a server upgrade, which I thought kind of made me raise an eyebrow. I personally, I don't know if it was the timing or I never really used MySpace personally, but I'm curious, Sean, if you being a couple years younger or where you fit in, like, was that a platform that you actually used before Facebook?
I did, and
took over?
Caroline, were you a MySpace user?
I know that Justin Bieber got his start on MySpace,
okay.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, he did? I didn't even know that.
Yes.
I thought it was YouTube.
Yeah, so
on YouTube.
That's a perfect thing to bring up, which is that, like, what could be, like, kind of lost. MySpace was a huge music platform. So, like, the stereotype, if you remember, like, if you see, like, screen grabs and stuff, is that they had this embedded music player in it. So, like, when you go to someone's page, the first thing that happens is it would play a song. And, of course, that can get really cheesy and annoying. But it was, like, It automatically gave you, like, this atmosphere and this, like, personality. So if you asked, like, what's the big difference between Facebook and MySpace, was that MySpace was kind of like your little artist website for bands, and it didn't it has music, and Facebook didn't. So yeah, like
also, like, Facebook was like very structured, right? Like they didn't give you any. They were just like you have no ability to edit, customize things, right?
Like the fact that MySpace loses this content for history. That just reinforces that ethic, I think, of like always back up and also like these things like there's no such thing as the cloud. It's just someone else's server.
Right.
So like for us and for you, Caroline, part of my workflow is that the first thing I do after I download an episode and I edit it is that I upload it to my own like server before I upload it to like through Podbean.
You're talking about your podcast, your podcast episode,
right? So that like if God forbid they had a purge, like I would have a backup because I don't want a MySpace on my hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm on YouTube and I've got 500 videos on YouTube. Believe me, not have every single episode recorded on a hard drive, on a portable hard drive somewhere.
Wow, so that becomes a lot to maintain, right? Over time, your own archive, I guess, for both of you. The only thing I have archived are my kids' pictures, and even that's pretty kind of a sketchy archive.
It's like a bad idea, but like I use like Google for part of it. But for you, Caroline, you must have like such a preponderance of total hours. Like, do you back up yours like on hard drives or anywhere?
Well, fortunately, technology has moved forward. Thank you, electrical engineering people. And I'm making a joke because I majored in electrical engineering in college, and we have this whole complex about us. But yeah, the portable hard drives or the external hard drives used to be larger, and thank God they've gotten smaller and smaller over the years. So I've purged all the larger hard drives and just keep on moving things to smaller and smaller portable external hard drives. So I would say 90% of everything. When I started YouTube so long ago that the first couple of videos I had to save on a CD, I had to burn on a DVD. That's the only copy I have.
Nice.
Yeah. So I won't need those ever again. I mean, I'm not so in love with them. I mean, they were all shot on on a video camera as good, like not even as good as my phone. Mm-hmm. So it's not like this was this high quality stuff.
I think this is a graceful way to transition now to talking about Caroline's work, because she brought up that she has like a very successful YouTube channel. She's also starting up a podcast of her own, but that's not even in the top two things that we want to discuss, which is the fact that Caroline premiering a app through Amazon's Alexa. Caroline, like, give us the elevator pitch of what your new project is.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on your podcast today. I really appreciate it. So let's see. I'm doing this YouTube channel, 16,000 subscribers now. It's great.
Nice.
I'm doing all these videos about, how to set up your Alexa. I've got like how to manage multiple Alexas, how to set it up, how to unbox it, how to, do smart home, how to, do all your switches and everything. And then and then Amazon's doing all these promotions about, hey, write apps for the Amazon Alexa. And they're giving out free t-shirts, and free Echo Dots, and, they're giving out free stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm on board with free stuff. Yeah. They were giving out free socks at one point, and I was like, I have feet, I need socks. Yeah. So
do you work as an electrical engineer or a programmer today, or this is all like hobby, personal interest driven?
It started as a hobby, 100%. So I did 2 degrees in electrical engineering, and then decided to have a career in marketing. So my career has been 99% in marketing. I have been a product manager, a director of CDN. I have, and my last role was I was head of global marketing for a software company.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's. I think, I love electrical engineering, but I think it takes somebody who's very technical, who has a bit of creativity in them to kind of explain what our magical devices do. Mm-hmm. And that's what I bring to marketing, is explaining what things are actually do that are useful. So anyway, so I got all these free socks, right, from Amazon, and now they're upping the ante, and they had a contest.
I hope so. Okay. Cool.
And they're having a contest. It's called the multimodal contest. It's called multimodal because they're trying to sell more of these Show devices, Echo Show, which has the screen on it. And so they're having a contest for the best app. They call them skills, it's really your smartphone, but this is an app for your Echo device. And they're having a contest, and the top prize is $20,000.
Nice.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to enter that thing. Shoot. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, what am I going to make a skill about? And you know what they say, write what you know, right? So
sure.
I know about running. I'm new to running. I started running about 5 years ago after never having exercised before in my life. And I've done, let's see, since I started running a few years ago, I've done 11 half marathons, and I've done 3 full marathons within a 4-year time period.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's just it's a ton of work. It's a ton of working out. I'm not a fan of working out either. But I've learned a lot about running in 5 years. And so I'm like, okay, what can I write about that has to do with running? What have I learned about running that I could apply to the Alexa? And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, And I realized there's not even an app in the app store that tells you, that pulls the weather for you automatically and then tells you what to wear on your run, how many layers you need to wear. And that's like a thing right now. So, the weather is changing every day. Like one day it's 38 degrees for my run. The next day it's 70.
It's been a little chilly the last couple of days too. I'm like, a little surprised.
Yeah. So I'm like, so I spend like these runs like take forever to do. Okay. I mean, to train for a marathon, I had to run 5 days a week, 35 miles.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, my manager, boss, was talking about he only runs half marathons and not full marathons, and started kind of geeking out on it. I kind of lost interest pretty quick, but that kind of struck me the way kind of like the attitude that he was projecting about only half marathon, but not more than that, where I was like, okay, I don't know. I don't run at all, so I didn't know what to think about it. But to hear you say like the amount of effort it's a significant difference, I guess, right? Is what you're describing in terms of training.
Basically. So here's the irony of it. So half marathon, 13.1 miles, right? So in order to train for a full marathon, I have to run that distance, 13.1 miles or longer. There's 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 mile runs. I have to do about, I would say, 5 to 8 runs that are longer than a half marathon before a marathon. But so the joy of doing a half marathon is at the end of it, people cheer for you and you get a medal and somebody gives you a glass of chocolate milk. Okay. So so there's this euphoric, like feeling of accomplishment when you do a half marathon. There's a photo, taken of you, there's a medal, there's stuff. You get stuff, okay? I'm into stuff, okay? Let me just be honest. Not into running, I'm into stuff. And then to train for a full marathon, you've got to run that distance, and at the end of it, there's no picture, there's no medal, there's nobody cheering you at the end, okay? You're just in a lot of pain, just all by yourself.
In the training. But when you finish a full marathon, do you get the same amount of euphoria for a full marathon? Some of that, right?
So this is, for the full marathon, it's a victory lap at that point. So you run the 26 miles, you want to die, you think you're dead at the end of it, or really, mile 20, you wish you were dead. Okay, I mean, it's so painful. It's so horrible, and then you can barely walk if you're lucky. At the end of it, you just want somebody to get you in a wheelchair. I mean, really, these things are horrible. I'm not selling the whole running thing here.
Yeah, totally. I was going to say, so the weather certainly becomes a major factor then.
If you have to go out every single day for a run and the weather is different every single day, you spend 30 minutes to get dressed because you have to check the weather, and then you have to get dressed. Then you have to go out for your run, which could be 30 minutes to an hour. Then you've got to cool down. Then you have to take a shower. And you're talking about, I mean, this is like a whole day of my life here. Sunday, there's something called the Church of Sunday Long Run now, which is, instead of going to church on Sunday morning, we're all out there running, 12 miles, 13 miles, 20 miles. And it's literally going to take me 3.5 hours to run 20 miles. Best case scenario.
You weren't a runner, there's this thing for laymen where they say it's like idea of doing the couch to 5K. You went from the bed to a marathon. Like you really fully on, because like marathons are some things that people only dream about. And out of that process, starting from zero to becoming a marathon runner, multiple marathon runner, you had this actual need. So like that was like, necessity is the mother of invention, that like you actually wanted to know like what should I wear today, like, so that's what your project is that it's like addressing something that you like, I need this, personally, I don't see it, so I'll make it. Is that accurate?
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. So thank you for getting me back on track here. Essentially I was like, okay, there's got to be a faster, easier way than this. Okay, I just need an automatic app that just says, okay, put on a short sleeve shirt today, not a long sleeve shirt, Caroline. You need to wear shorts today, and get out there and go. And that's what my app does. It pulls your zip code. Of course, it's permission based, so you allow it to pull your zip code, and from your zip code, it pulls the weather API, and from there, there's an algorithm that I've written. You also put in if you're male or female too. Okay. So you do have to pick a gender for this app. And yeah, if you pick female, yeah, it tells you to wear female clothing. Okay. Specifically.
And the weather API, is that a Amazon weather API, or are you going to like Weather Channel? Or, I mean, I guess I haven't ever messed around with making any of these apps, but I know like in general sometimes, like if you try to go scrape weather.com, like they don't make that easy, right?
There's
a subscription service.
There's a really easy way of doing it. It's called openweatherapi.org. And it's free, yeah, and you sign up and you get a free API key. And
cool.
Yeah, and it's super easy once you figure it out, yeah. It's super easy to start pulling the weather information. So I give it a zip code, it pulls back the temperature, the humidity, the wind speed, and the condition. So it'll give me a word. It'll give me rain or cloud or sleet. And from there, I can run it through my algorithm.
Well, let's give you another round of applause here. So, like, you did all the coding yourself?
100%. And I never coded before. That was the funniest part. I started coding only a few years ago when Amazon started offering these free T-shirts and socks. And it's written in Node.js, which I had never coded in, which
wow.
is JavaScript.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah, absolutely.
So what I used to do is to learn how to code in JavaScript, I would turn on YouTube right before I go to sleep every night and watch a YouTube video called How to Code in JavaScript.
That's awesome.
You know, like,
I tried to watch a Coursera video 2 nights ago right before going to bed, and I couldn't watch. I just ended up falling asleep. Like I think it was too late. That's pretty impressive. That's great.
You fall asleep, and then you kind of subliminally learn how to code in JavaScript.
Yes, so. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well,
I started. Yeah, I coded the whole thing myself in Node.js. I mean, but you also have to consider that Amazon puts a lot of resources out there, and they've got a lot of sample code. So yeah, right. I pull all the sample code and kind of plug it in where I need to. And
so all the I'm also only a very casual user of the Alexa with an Echo Dot. All the skills are free to users, right? Or are you selling your skill?
Ooh, that's
or monetizing it in any way, or is it strictly like
the way it works is every skill is free to launch, and some skills are called premium skills in that if there's content you can unlock for 99 cents or for a premium price that you can buy. And I do have some of those. I do have one of those skills out there that was featured by Amazon back in December.
And then you get a small percentage.
You get 70%, which is pretty good. Yeah,
that's not bad.
So, Caroline, I'm going to advocate for the layman out there like myself, and you say skills, you say Amazon Alexa, you might as well be saying I get in my spaceship and I fly to Mars. What happens if you don't have an Alexa or you're not familiar with this? Can they still use your app, or what would you recommend for them?
Absolutely. Get on your smartphone, download the Amazon Alexa app onto your phone. Then you log in with the credentials that you use to shop on the Amazon app. You don't have to create a new login and password. And then there's a button at the bottom that you can press, and you can say, Alexa, launch running clothes. And
it runs on your phone?
On your phone. It works.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So you don't need to buy an Echo device to do this, to have access to all the Alexa stuff. And the app is free.
I'll let this be kind of like a cooking show because I prompted you, but I've actually checked out your tutorial. So I think this is really critical, and we'll put a link to it that you walk people through, just like on your YouTube channel, how that they can get your app, right? So even if they're not that familiar with all the licenses and permissions, so basically, say someone hears about this app and they want to get involved. That you actually made a kind of commercial where it kind of walks you through step by step, right? Like first you do this, then you click on this in settings, and then you do that.
Yeah, I did that. I've got this screen record of my phone downloading the app.
Very cool. And what's the name of the skill for the weather?
Clothes. So
running clothes. Running clothes. Okay, cool. I'm gonna look for it real quick.
Do you want a demo while we're on? This is audio.
Let's hear
my
it.
Echo Dot real fast. Well, we can record this.
Demo or die time.
Okay.
Live demo.
Alexa, launch running close.
Welcome back to the Running Close Advisor. I remember that last time you were just right, and I'll adjust going forward. Can I make a recommendation for female attire based on your local weather?
Yes.
With temperatures at 47 degrees and wind speeds of 3 miles per hour, my best recommendation is a long-sleeve moisture-wicking shirt, sports bra, and capri pants. And don't forget to lace up with quality running shoes. Please come back after your run and let me know how I did by saying launch running clothes and selecting log my run.
And that's
it, huh?
Oh, now that's all you have to do. Like once you get it set up, you just say yes, and then she does all the work for you.
I think it would be kind of cool even if you aren't a runner, so that it sounds like from that little demonstration it gives you like a good little glimpse of what weather you'll be facing, and so like, even if you were just going to be like going to the park, like it still could be useful, right?
It's a great way to check the weather without having to open your phone.
Yeah.
That's half the time. Yes, that's what I do with it. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to find that stupid weather app on my phone. I'm just like, Alexa.
Oh, honestly, that's a really good point. I hate the weather apps are so bloated with, like the Weather Channel's the worst with the bloat, right? The bazillion ads and.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good. Yeah, this is nice and to the point.
From my perspective, you guys are like two peas in a pod. Like, what you might not know, Caroline, is that Tanju also has an engineering background where he transitioned because he was such a good facilitator that he's kind of like in a managerial position now, as opposed to doing like the technical day-to-day work. And then also, obviously, you're talking to him on a podcast. So, like, he's has the exact same, like, career trajectory as you. And then also you both are involved in, like, maker stations, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, the only thing I've struggled or not put effort into learning how to code, but that's, like, on my list of things that I want to, at some point, spend some time doing. So, but, yeah, it's pretty cool.
The way that we code is a lot different from 20 years ago to the way we do it now. So 20 years ago when we were coding, I would just buy a book and then just look up every command and then
yeah, and that's exactly I had a problem where I didn't have anyone in my life to encourage me not to quit when I got frustrated, where now I read, especially now, there's so many forums and there, tips and tricks on like how to learn to code. And there's always, in any top 10 list I've read recently, they say, the difference between someone that codes and doesn't is the person that codes doesn't quit when they get frustrated, right? Like frustration is a natural part of the process of, figuring out how to get your code to do what it is that you're trying to do. Nobody ever just gets it right, or there's not like any real naturals out there, or very few, maybe just a handful. Yeah, and I remember I got a big giant DOS book from my uncle. And it was like, okay, this sucks with a command terminal, or I can go play with my Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo, which was awesome, like super interactive, all the colors, the music, everything, or play on like a DOS prompt, right?
Oh, I never thought about that. That's a really good point.
That was my experience. I remember that stupid book. Like, I remember kind of when I started transitioning into the IT space, like lamenting that you sort of hear the legends of like whoever had that, had a book and they just picked it up and started doing stuff with it. And I had that book and I loathed it, right? I like actively was like, I was right at the wrong age, like 13 or 14, where I was like, this sucks.
The way the books are written is horrible, okay, back then. So
it was like
totally commiserate with you on that.
Right.
But I also had a father who really encouraged me, and he just kind of taught me, well, it's got to get worse before it gets better, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
As a painter and a person who teaches painting to children, like as an instructor, and kind of goes along with what you're saying, is that I realized that you don't ever make a bad painting. You stop making a good painting. And that's what I kind of tell kids to motivate them, is that, if the proportions are wrong, just paint over it till they're right. If the color's wrong, just paint over it till the color's right. Like, like that you think that you messed up, but really it's you just keep on adding a new layer till you're happy. And if it becomes to a point that you're sick of it, then it's a bad painting because you stopped, not because it's a bad painting. And so I think that's relatable, that it's like, if the difference between a coder and a not a coder is that they just kept coding, right?
Yeah. They just kept at it, kept problem solving, trying to find the solution, right?
Just because something's broken doesn't mean that you need to stop. Just because you broke it doesn't mean you can't fix it. That was always my attitude about it. It's like, I broke everything in my house when I was a kid. And yeah, my parents got mad and it was bad. And then I was like, you know what? If I learned how to fix it, they wouldn't be so mad at me.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so like,
cool.
Do you relate to that, Tanju, that she has her entry point to becoming a maker was actually becoming a deconstructor as the first step?
Yeah, absolutely. Most kids like making stuff on some level. It's like they get pushed out of them, right? I mean, you go to any kindergarten, it's all making in kindergarten, right? I mean, crayons and macaroni and everything is like constructed on some level. And then somehow some kids that just starts to not, they just stop getting encouraged for that, or becomes too much work, or they're not getting the support. I mean, with my kids, we had this really, I figured this out too late. In elementary school, they had, at some point, this like mean art teacher. I don't know what grade it was now, second grade or third grade, who was there, and they're in elementary school, so they're there for 5 years, who was on the verge of retirement and was like real surly. And like by the time they finished elementary school, like my kids hated art class. And it was too late for me to do anything about it by the time I realized what was going on. But it was like, art class is supposed to be the best class in all of school, right? Like the most laid back teacher. Pretty much like you said, you just keep doing the work, you keep painting over it until it gets good. Lots of encouragement, and somehow like they didn't get that experience in elementary. And my daughter had to get all the way through middle school and now middle of high school before she's finally come back around to like thinking that art and being creative is like worth her time and something she actually wants to be interested in doing, which was pretty heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking to me for a while.
Leonardo da Vinci was one of the most famous artists even to this day, and he really blurred the lines, kind of like you guys, where he was equally an engineer and architect and a natural historian as much as he was an artist, and he didn't ask for permission. Like, even though it was illegal, he dissected corpses and he kept plant pressings, and by filling his knowledge base, that's how he was able to be a good painter, but it also was the thing that let him invent the helicopter and other things. And so, like...
Yeah, but I don't think he was like an anomaly. I think that was more of the way things were back then. Like, there was less specialization in general, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
like one of the things that, like, he's part of a culture that enabled that to happen. And he just happened to be a little more prolific and like get books published, right? But he wasn't a lone genius working by himself.
Sure.
I want to interject something.
Please.
Sure.
You touched on a very sensitive topic for me. And so as a woman in engineering, I was one of three women in my graduating class, somewhere around that. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but School of Electrical Engineering, it was, I think it was a 12% female to male ratio.
Right.
And I do get asked a lot as a woman who made it through the electrical engineering program, why aren't there more women in engineering, or why is it such a male dominated field? And I always come back and I say, I don't know. There's no heavy lifting in electrical engineering. But I think what I've come to learn in the past year or so is that I think it is about opportunity. I think it is about giving girls at a young age that opportunity to learn about technology instead of making kind of this, guy kind of thing. So last year I led 3 STEM workshops for underprivileged kids. And you know what? They're makers. They caught on to those projects and flew through those projects so fast. And
absolutely.
But it was about opportunity. They came from, underprivileged, not so nobility homes, as, call it these days. And I mean, they didn't have, their parents are working at like a job on Saturday and Sunday. They just don't have that kind of money or encouragement, going back to an earlier conversation to get involved in technology. And that's
right.
For me, that there isn't that opportunity. I see the difference between rich and poor. Yes, you have less opportunity, and also male and female too.
I'm in danger of mansplaining, but I wanted to kind of talk about in that same concept because I was on the flip side of the opposite gender spectrum, where when I went to art school, I would literally be in classes the only male and 30 females in every class. Like, that's not an exaggeration. Wow. And even now, I'm an art instructor. There are like essentially 30 instructors and assistants, and I'm the only male in the building in a teaching capacity. And so I think on either side, it's a matter of expectations that, like, our culture teaches us really young that arts are for girls and sciences and math are for boys, and we're taught it in subtle ways, and there's no real good reason, like there's no tangible reason that stops boys from going to art class, and there's no reason why girls can't excel in hard sciences, but like there's this patriarchal concept.
People, just being jerks, right?
Yeah, for lack of a better word.
Like,
that's our only expectation. Let's
really
secrets of life on this podcast, on the Double Timer podcast here. People are jerks.
People are jerks. Dude. Yeah, it's just like a jerk thing. Absolutely.
We need to break the cycle.
We need to, yeah. That's all we can do, I think, is individually try to break it and talk about it, right? And just be open and say it doesn't have to be that way. And then also, like, I mean, even when I'm saying this right now, like, jerks, like, I'm thinking of my dad. My dad would make disparaging comments about artists. Yeah. And he's super talented, right? And artistic. And he was a jerk about it. And then, like, okay, yeah, so he was a jerk about it. And not needing to, just be able to move past that, right? And not be too hung up on, like, now I have some kind of animosity against, in the way he promoted that or pushed, certain stereotypes. But just be able to move on and, whether it's with our own kids or whether you're able to interact with other kids and even adults too, right? There's still adults today that are only first getting some opportunities to explore some of these other areas and interests that have the opportunity to excel. It's not something that you miss a chance when you're a kid and now you don't ever have a chance again, right? It could be at any age, really.
That's my big thing about technology. You're hitting another sore spot with me right now. It is that, I see women and they're like, yeah, my husband bought the Amazon Echo and he set it up and it's his device and I don't touch it and I don't want to talk to it.
Right.
I'm scared of it and it's a scary, scary thing and I'm scared of my home computer and I'm sitting there like, I'm going to strangle you is really what I'm thinking.
No, I think it's we touched on this a little bit last week, and this is a concept I've thought a lot about over the last few years as I've come into sort of my own with my experience with the makerspaces. There's a concept of like creative confidence that most people are lacking. It's like a confidence thing, right? Like you said, they're afraid to touch the device, or that's my husband's or my wife's thing, and I'm not into that, and I'm afraid to mess it up, right?
But it goes back to your earlier point about this patriarchal society, or what we've been taught as kids. These women, these very successful, smart, educated women, are still afraid. They don't have that confidence, and I want to tell them, okay. I want to strangle every single one of them. Okay, you will set up this Alexa on your own, and I think that's one of the things I'm trying to kind of push the envelope on my YouTube channel. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of it because 90% of my viewers are men on my YouTube channel. So now the men have to learn how to set their Alexa from me, a woman, and
wow.
Because there aren't a lot of women talking about Alexa or doing tech videos on YouTube. And I think that's important to say, hey, I'm a woman. I'm doing technology YouTube videos.
Right.
And I think that's what we need to do. We need to keep on talking about it. We need to keep on pushing that envelope and making things, being aware, self-awareness.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And gosh, it just occurred to me, if you ever want to come to the Maker Station and host like an Alexa making workshop, by all means, like we can certainly, I'd love to have you. Like we need content at the Maker Station as much as anybody. So, if that's like, if you want to target kind of Cobb County group. We'd love to have you. And it could be open to everyone, or if you want to do it one focused on women as well. I got my fingers crossed. The Society, no, not this, what are they called? The Society of Lady Makers. Is that what they're called in Atlanta? Are you familiar with that group?
Yeah.
They go to Decatur. What's that?
Colleen Jordan runs that group.
Does she run it? Okay, so I don't know them very well, but I've crossed paths with them at Maker Fair, and I know they go to Decatur Makers sometime. And I'm like, we've got a makerspace up in Marietta that could use the Society of Lady Makers content there, because even in the makerspace, I've never run the numbers. We definitely have women that go through there, but it's definitely more men. It's not 50-50, right, of a demographic of our membership. But I don't feel comfortable myself hosting. Maybe this is my creative comment, something that would be targeting like women only. I feel like that should be a little organic. And I guess Colleen and that group, maybe we're just not quite in the right geographic area, right? If they're more in Decatur or more in a different part of the city of Atlanta, coming up to Marietta could be a bit of a trek, right? A bit of a chore.
Yeah, I think Colleen lives near the Decatur. I think she's in that area, and I'm kind of close to her too. I'm in Midtown.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I've kind of partnered with Colleen on that.
Cool.
We can schedule something. We'll take that offline. Sure.
All right.
So let's go back to the original conversation about, let's see, I'm in a contest now. Okay, from now until the 29th. I hope this episode airs before the 29th now at this point.
Sean's really good. Yeah, Sean gets these out fast.
Basically it's a $20,000 grand prize. There were 430 entries into this Alexa contest. They narrowed it down to top 10 finalists. I am the only woman in the top 10.
What? So where is this on? Like, I just went to the Alexa skills page. I'm not necessarily seeing it. Is this contest, like, where is it promoted? That
it's on DevPost. So do a Google search on DevPost multimodal Alexa.
Oh my gosh.
And that's
okay.
Well, this contest has been going on since 2018. I mean, they started talking about it in 2018. So all the submissions due in January, and they just announced the top 10, I guess last Friday or Friday before last.
And I'll post a link too, so people won't have to dig for this.
What's the judging criteria though? Is it people voting or users? Or just a number of downloads, or what?
Yeah, so basically the winner is going to be decided by the number of users, number of what they call engagements. So unique users, returning users, how long you used it for, how many times you used it. So that's huge now. So I'm trying to get the word out to try to ask people to use it. I'm the only fitness-related skill or app in the competition. Out of the top 10, I think the other ones are all games or some sort of gaming-like app, and then I'm the only woman left in the competition as well too. And I'm very confident I'm the only one in Atlanta or just even in the Southeast in this competition.
Have we gotten all the major points? Is there any aspects of the app that we haven't really touched on yet that you want to share?
Okay, yeah. So this is a bit of a learning for me. The way I made the app originally was it would say the same thing, the same way, the same time, every single time. It would be the same 3 questions every single time you launch the app. And some of the, it was like, do you want a recommendation based on current weather? And I would say yes. And then it would say, are you male or female? It would ask you that every single time. Are you male or female?
Okay.
And then the response would be exactly the same every single time. Well, based on the weather, my best recommendation is. So that's the engineer in me, I wanted some sort of structure, I wanted to be consistent every single time. And I found out I was wrong about that. Yes.
That's like the marketing side, right? You figure out.
Yeah, exactly.
The user experience.
Yes, I thought that a consistent user experience would be good. Obviously, I'm not a user experience person. So, as part of making the top 10, you get legitimate feedback from the judges on what could be better about your skill. And they were like, you could vary up the responses a little bit. You could make the process a little bit easier where they just had to say yes and then they could get, the recommendation. You could, You could also add in machine learning too. And I was like, I never thought of that. And this is the best part of it is that I found out on Friday at 5 p.m. that I made the top 10. And then they give you, hey, congratulations, you made the top 10. Here is the feedback from the judges. If you want to make any changes, you need to submit them by Monday at 10 p.m. 3 days.
Like this? Wow.
Yeah. So I basically recoded the whole thing in 3 days because I had to add in being able to log your run, being able to say, hey, I was too hot or too cold, and then using machine learning to get it to adjust it just for you, and then changing up all the responses so that it said something different. So the hello message was different every single time. And I did all, and so they're really pushing this very personalized experience where it's like, I remember you were too hot last time, and I'm going to adjust my recommendations just for you this time.
Wait, yeah, so now I'm really curious because we're doing machine learning at work as well. Did you have any previous experience with machine learning, or are you just using some API that Amazon has? To feed a couple variables.
Yeah, it's very basic machine learning. Let's just say that because I accomplished this in 3 days, and 2 of those were a Saturday and a Sunday. Okay.
Wow, that's still impressive. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, but as an electrical engineer, we spend a lot of time doing regression analysis. That's one of our, I guess, pillars of electrical engineering. I'm sure somewhere somehow. So that was really interesting. That they wanted this really personalized experience, and they wanted to be more of a human. You don't say the same thing every single time.
Right. I mean, even on your little demo, I think my first reaction was when it asked you, would you like me to give you a recommendation? I was just like, of course. That to me, that one question was I don't know if you need that question, right? I didn't want to just only now because you brought it up. That was something that crossed my mind when I first heard that.
Well, see, in my household, my husband and I both run, and then we both use the same account on the Alexa. So the way I coded it was for us. When he walks up to the machine, I want him to say male and then get his recommendation. When I want to walk up to it, I want to say female and get my recommendation. I don't want it to automatically default to female every single time. Then he's not going to be able to use the app.
Oh, that's it. Okay, I hadn't thought of that.
But he pointed out to me that very few couples, both the husband and the wife, run. Generally speaking, it's only one or the other that runs. And so I didn't need to create that level of flexibility. And technically you're right in that you should just launch it and it should say, okay, based on the weather, here's your recommendation. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's always enhancement opportunities, right? So best of luck. You win the next level. You could always maybe add a configuration in the very beginning, right? That just when you're first setting it up, giving it your zip code, you could then say, do you want this just for a single user or for a multiple user runner household or something like that, right? To then drive those two different sort of user experience cases you're describing. But
exactly,
I don't want to mansplain it to you either.
Thank you I've now made y'all both very nervous about mansplaining. It's okay. I'm in electrical engineering. I've been mansplained. My tolerance for mansplaining is a lot higher than most women.
Regardless of how it manifested, I appreciate the specificity. So you said, okay, if no one else looks at this thing, I'm going to make it so me and my husband can use it. I think that's a great place to at least start, because I think if you try to please this imaginary audience, you might please nobody. But if you say well, what would I want? You might find other people like it too. So I think just that as a strategy is a great way to tackle it, personally.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So anyway, the contest is running from now until the 29th, and then they'll announce the winner supposedly, hopefully in April, and hopefully, I'll win. I don't know. If nothing else, it's just great to get myself out there and really just get, start talking about our issues and talking about, what it's like out there and what it's like to be a maker too.
Tanju, do you have any maker specific questions from a maker to a maker?
I mean, no, not specifically. I mean, I think overall it's just super awesome and super inspiring. Definitely look forward to crossing paths again. And if anything, my question was about having Caroline come visit the Maker Station, and we could do there's a couple different options we could do, right? You could come in and sort of talk about like a tutorial on doing almost like a live, like the way you might record a tutorial for YouTube, but you're doing it live, or you could come in and share some of your experience with this Amazon experience that you've been through, especially if you come in, if you're as a winner, but even if not, like some of this development effort that you went through, I think that would be really well received and interesting to a lot of people, because a lot of people that come through the space, even if they're not, everyone's kind of got a little bit of some kind of product idea, fantasy that they want in their mind, something they'd love to create, whether it's for something personal or trying to take it to market. So this would just be awesome.
Thank you. I would
awesome
love
to hear that. Yeah, and same thing even at I think Maker Faire is trying to bring more workshop content, right? And speakers. I know last year I was queued up to speak about starting, like my experience starting a makerspace, but the venue wasn't quite set up. So I think a lot of people didn't realize that there was like talks scheduled, right? Because they don't really have a conference room at the Georgia Freight Depot where they were at. So it didn't really happen, but I know from some of those organizers, they're always talking about wanting to bring in more kind of conference type content to the Maker Faire as well. And I think this would be great for something like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I
it sounds like
live coding session with you guys. And, I also have a series of videos on my YouTube channel, how to make an Alexa from a Raspberry Pi. Have y'all done that project yet?
I haven't. I don't know if some of the members have. We definitely have a group of like enthusiasts of like Raspberry Pi and Arduino enthusiasts. I tried to do the Google Voice Kit 2 years ago for Christmas. I bought it. And saying my kids are kind of at the age where they felt like I was forcing them to do it. So we did it for a weekend, and then they're like, "That's your thing, Dad." And then when the kids weren't interested, I'm like, "Well, I'm not that interested either. I was just trying to do it with my kids."
Wait. Let's go back. Let's go back to what you said originally about how sometimes we just give up too easily.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly, guilty for sure. Like when it comes to the programming space, like I'm very guilty of that. It's something I'm dealing with.
I did, that was one of the STEM workshops I did. I taught 13 girls in one day how to make their own Google Home with that kit.
Nice. With the voice kit?
And added in an auto launch too, so that it auto booted into it, because that's not the original program. And I explained to them, hey, we don't just do the project, we go above and beyond.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I struggle with it. I ended up 3D printing this like robot head thing that the kit goes inside of, and it's literally been sitting. We have a bookcase next to our dinner table.
Oh my God, I did that too.
For 2 years, sitting there, semi-assembled with like the gut stuffed into it. We've never actually taken the time to finish it. I think we did the initial like hello world with it type of, tap into the Google API, get a connection, and then sort of ran out of time that day and then never picked it back up, unfortunately. So it's sitting there.
I printed the AdaBot box for it. Then I bought some servo motors, and then I got little arms, and I waved, and I attached it to little arms. So then I said,
nice,
wave, and then like the little arms started waving on the little box, and then I hooked up 4 LEDs, and then I could control the LEDs with my voice, like turn the blue light on.
Right.
And then I got really creative one day. I was like, turn primary colors on.
Nice. Very cool.
So, because we don't just do the project. We go above
and beyond. That's what it's all about.
I want to thank Caroline for coming on, and also the opportunist in me says maybe we could do like a crossover event where we could do like a film your tutorial at the station and make like some content for both our YouTube channel and your YouTube channel at the same time.
That's the way it's done now. YouTube is huge on that. Collab.
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
Yeah, I went to a whole YouTube seminar, and they were like, yeah, make these collaboration videos because you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and blah, 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 blah. And that's totally the YouTube way.
Cool. Let's do it.
So thank you for having me. This has been
Thanks for coming on. Absolutely.
Find more information at doubleprimer.com.